There's a shadow government ruling the United States today. It does not meet in the Capitol building. It does not hold press conferences in the Rose Garden. It does not answer to the voters, and it cannot be voted out of office. It is an entity that manages $10 trillion in assets, a sum larger than the GDP of Germany and Japan combined. If it were a country, it would be the third largest superpower on Earth. Its name is BlackRock. And right now, this Leviathan is placing the biggest bet in financial history. It is betting that the United States government is going to fail. It is betting that the era of the sovereign nation state is ending, and the era of the sovereign corporation is beginning. BlackRock is not buying the dip. They are buying the wreckage. They are positioning themselves to be the receiver of a bankrupt American empire. To understand the magnitude of this bet, you have to look past the boring corporate logo and the quiet demeanor of its CEO, Larry Fink. You have to understand that BlackRock is not a bank. It is not a hedge fund. It is something entirely new in the history of capitalism. It is an asset manager that has effectively merged with the state. In 2008, when the global financial system melted down, the Federal Reserve did not know which banks were solvent and which were toxic. They didn't have the data, so they called Larry Fink. They hired BlackRock to manage the bailout of Bear Stearns and AIG. They handed the keys of the Treasury to a private company. In 2020, when the pandemic crashed the markets, the Federal Reserve called Larry Fink again. They hired BlackRock to buy corporate bonds to prop up the economy. Think about what that means. The United States government, the most powerful entity in history, admitted twice that it could not save itself without the help of BlackRock. The government has become the junior partner in this relationship. And now, the senior partner is preparing for the final act. BlackRock's $10 trillion portfolio is shifting. For decades, they grew rich by selling the American dream, stocks, bonds, and retirement accounts. But now, their actions suggest they believe the American dream is over. They are aggressively moving capital out of the traditional democracy economy and into the feudal economy. They are betting against the individual. They are betting against the homeowner. They are betting against the small business. And they are betting against the US dollar. The heart of this operation is a piece of technology that few people know exists. It is called Aladdin. Aladdin is an artificial intelligence system that runs on a complex of supercomputers in Washington state. It is the central nervous system of the global economy. Aladdin does not just manage BlackRock's $10 trillion. It provides the risk management software for Vanguard, State Street, the major insurance companies, and even the central banks themselves. In total, Aladdin monitors over $21 trillion of assets every single day. It sees every trade, every loan, every shift in the wind before the Federal Reserve does. Aladdin is the eye of Sauron, and Aladdin is flashing red. The data inside Aladdin is telling BlackRock a simple truth. The Western debt model is mathematically impossible to sustain. The United States has $35 trillion in debt and is adding $1 trillion every 100 days. Interest payments on the debt are now higher than the defense budget. There is no political solution to this. No tax hike and no budget cut can fix it. The only outcome is a default, either a hard default where the government stops paying, or a soft default where they print money until the dollar is worthless. BlackRock knows this. So they're executing a strategy to own the real assets before the currency collapses. They are trading paper promises for physical dominance. This brings us to the most visible and violent part of their bet, the housing market. In the last few years, you have seen home prices skyrocket to levels that defy logic. You're told it is a supply shortage. You're told it is millennials buying their first homes. This is a lie. What you're witnessing is the institutionalization of the American neighborhood. BlackRock, along with other institutional giants, is raising billions of dollars to buy single-family homes across the country. They are paying cash. They are paying 20% over asking price. They are outbidding the young couple trying to start a family. Why? Because they want to turn a nation of owners into a nation of renters. Ownership is the foundation of freedom. If you own your home, you have a stake in the community. You have equity. You have a shield against inflation. If you rent, you are vulnerable. You are dependent. BlackRock wants a subscription society. They want you to pay a subscription for your shelter, just like you pay for your music and your movies. This is not a conspiracy. It is a stated business model. They call it single-family rental aggregation. It is a bet that the middle class is dead. They are betting that the average American will never again be able to afford a down payment, so they will be forced to rent from the corporate landlord forever. This is the return of feudalism. The lord owns the land, the peasant pays the rent. But the housing bet is just one prong of the spear. The second prong is the takeover of the energy grid and the corporate boardroom through a weapon called ESG, environmental, social, and governance. You hear a lot about ESG in the culture wars. People think it is just woke capitalism. They think it is about diversity hiring or rainbow flags. This is a distraction. ESG is not about social justice. It is about capital control. It is a tool to starve BlackRock's competitors of money. By setting the ESG standards, BlackRock can decide which companies get investment and which do not. If an oil company refuses to follow BlackRock's agenda, their ESG score drops and they are cut off from the capital markets. They go bankrupt. This allows BlackRock to force entire industries to consolidate. They are using ESG to dismantle the independent energy sector and transfer those assets to the giants they own. It is a protection racket. Nice company you have there. It would be a shame if your ESG score dropped and your stock price collapsed. By controlling the flow of capital, Larry Fink has more power over American industry than the President of the United States. He can dictate energy policy, hiring policy, and production targets without a single vote being cast. He is the shadow regulator, and he is regulating the economy to benefit the asset holders at the expense of the consumers. The energy transition is the perfect cover for this. BlackRock is betting trillions on the green economy. Not because they care about the polar bears, but because the green economy requires massive new infrastructure, wind farms, solar arrays, battery plants. This infrastructure is capital intensive. It requires huge loans and huge government subsidies. Who manages those loans? BlackRock. Who owns the companies building the infrastructure? BlackRock. Who buys the government bonds that fund the subsidies? BlackRock. It is a closed loop of wealth extraction. They are betting that the state will force you to switch to electric, and they will own the charging station. Now, we must look at the geopolitical dimension of this bet. BlackRock acts like a sovereign state on the world stage. Larry Fink meets with heads of state more often than the U.S. Secretary of State does, and the most revealing move they have made recently is in Ukraine. While the bombs were still falling, Larry Fink was meeting with President Zelensky to sign a deal. BlackRock has been appointed to coordinate the reconstruction of Ukraine. They are setting up the Ukraine Development Fund. What does this mean? It means BlackRock is positioning itself to own the assets of an entire nation. The farmland of Ukraine, the breadbasket of Europe, is some of the most valuable soil on Earth. The energy grids, the ports, the lithium deposits. When the war ends, the Ukrainian state will be destitute. They will have massive debts. How will they pay? They will pay with equity. They will privatize their national assets, and BlackRock will be the manager of that sale. This is the company town model applied to a country. It is a bet that in the future, corporations will reconstruct failed states in exchange for ownership. It is the East India Company model for the 21st century. But the most shocking part of BlackRock's bet is happening right here at home with the US dollar. For 30 years, Larry Fink was the king of the bond market. He told everyone to buy treasuries. He defended the fiat system. But recently, a shift has occurred. BlackRock has pivoted aggressively toward Bitcoin. After years of calling it an index of money laundering, BlackRock filed for a spot Bitcoin ETF and pushed it through the SEC. They are now the largest holder of Bitcoin in the corporate world. Why the flip? Because Aladdin knows the math. Aladdin sees that the U.S. Treasury market is becoming unstable. When the government has to borrow $10 trillion just to refinance old debt, there aren't enough buyers. The only buyer left is the Federal Reserve, which means printing money, which means debasing the currency. BlackRock knows that in a world of debased currency, you need a neutral reserve asset. You need something that the government cannot print more of. They realize that Bitcoin is the only asset that fits this description. This is the ultimate vote of no confidence in the state. When the world's largest asset manager starts moving its clients out of dollars and into a decentralized digital commodity, they are signaling the end of the dollar hegemony. They are essentially saying, the ship is sinking and we are buying the lifeboats. But they aren't just buying a few lifeboats, they are buying the whole fleet so they can rent the seats back to you. They want to be the custodian of the new money, just as they were the custodian of the old money. They want to trap the crypto revolution inside their ETF wrapper. This pivot connects to their broader strategy of tokenization. Larry Fink has stated that the future of markets is the tokenization of every financial asset. What does this mean? It means putting stocks, bonds, real estate, and art on the blockchain. It sounds futuristic and efficient, but in BlackRock's hands, it is a tool for total surveillance and control. If they control the ledger, they control the property rights. Imagine a world where your house deed is a token on a BlackRock blockchain. If your social credit score drops, or if you miss a payment, the smart contract executes automatically. Ownership is revoked. Access is denied. This is the bet against the state. They are betting that the state's legal system is too slow and inefficient. They want to replace the public courts with private code. They want to replace the public deed office with a private ledger. They are building a parallel system of governance that runs on their technology. Where they make the rules, it is a privatization of the law itself. Let's go deeper into the retirement trap. BlackRock manages the pension funds of teachers, firefighters, and police officers across America. They manage your 401k. This gives them a hostage. If the government tries to regulate BlackRock or break them up, BlackRock can simply say, if you hurt us, you hurt the retirees. If our stock portfolio goes down, the pension funds become insolvent. They use your money as a human shield. They have financialized the social safety net. This creates a terrifying conflict of interest. BlackRock is using the workers' money to invest in technologies that replace the workers. They use the pension funds to buy shares in companies developing AI and robotics that will make those pensioners' jobs obsolete. They are using your capital to build your replacement. It is a cannibalistic loop. The passive investing revolution, which BlackRock championed with its iShares ETFs, has made this possible. Millions of people blindly put money into the S&P 500 every month. That money flows automatically to BlackRock. They don't have to earn it anymore. They just harvest the flow. It gives them infinite ammunition to buy up the real economy. And what about the debt ceiling? Every time there is a crisis in Washington about the debt ceiling, the media tells you it's a political squabble. But watch who visits the White House during those crises. Larry Fink. He is the one explaining to the politicians that they cannot default. Why? Because a default would hurt BlackRock's bond portfolio. So the solution is always the same. Print more money. Kick the can down the road. Inflate the debt away. This inflation destroys the purchasing power of the poor, but it inflates the asset prices of the rich. BlackRock wins either way. If the economy grows, their stocks go up. If the economy crashes, the Fed prints money, and their assets go up in nominal terms. They have rigged the game so they cannot lose. The only thing that can threaten BlackRock is a sovereign individual, someone who owns their own assets, holds their own keys, and is not dependent on the financial system. This is why the war on cash and the war on independent crypto is so fierce. They need you in the system. They need you in the ETF. They need you in the digital corral. If you can hold gold in a safe or Bitcoin on a hardware wallet, you are leaking capital from their management. You are a hole in their bucket. Oh, where does this leave us in 2025 and beyond? We are entering the phase of the great transfer. The state is shedding its responsibilities. The state can no longer afford to maintain the infrastructure, so it will sell the roads and bridges to BlackRock. The state can no longer afford to build housing, so it will cede the housing market to BlackRock. The state can no longer afford to stabilize the currency, so it will allow BlackRock to manage the transition to digital assets. We are witnessing the birth of the corporate state. In this new model, the citizen is no longer a citizen. They are a user. A user has no rights, only terms of service. If you violate the terms of service, you are deplatformed from the economy. BlackRock is betting that the American people are too distracted, too tired, and too divided to stop this. They are betting that we will trade our freedom for convenience. They are betting that we will accept the pod, eat the bugs, and be happy with our subscription lifestyle. But there is a flaw in their bet. A $10 trillion bet is a heavy thing. It is hard to maneuver. BlackRock has become the market. And when you are the market, there is no one left to sell to. Liquidity is drying up. The bond market is fragile. If a panic starts, a real panic, where everyone wants their money back at once, even Aladdin cannot save them. The exit door is too small for an elephant that size. This is why they are desperate to control the narrative. This is why they spend millions on PR trying to convince you they are a force for good. They are terrified of a run on the bank. They are also underestimating the political backlash. The anti-ESG movement is growing. States like Texas and Florida are pulling billions of dollars out of BlackRock. People are waking up. They are realizing that their own money is being used against them. If this trend accelerates, if the pension funds start firing BlackRock, the Leviathan will bleed. Their power comes from our capital. Without our capital, they're just a software company with a nice office. The bet against the state is also a dangerous gamble because states, when cornered, tend to lash out. Throughout history, when a merchant class becomes more powerful than the king eventually seizes their gold. We could see a future where a desperate U.S. government turns on BlackRock, taxes their assets, or breaks them up. Larry Fink is walking a tightrope. He needs the state to be weak enough to manipulate, but strong enough to protect his property rights. If the state collapses completely into anarchy, BlackRock's contracts are worthless. They need a zombie state, dead on the inside, but still standing to enforce the police state. This is the reality of the world we live in. We are caught in the crossfire between a dying empire, the U.S. government, and a rising empire, BlackRock. One wants to tax you to death, the other wants to rent you to death. So, what is the countermove? How do you position yourself when the smartest money in the world is betting against the system? First, you do what they do, not what they say. Larry Fink tells you to diversify into stocks and bonds, but Larry Fink is buying single-family homes and Bitcoin. Watch the hands, not the mouth. You need to own hard assets, assets that have utility. A house you can live in. Land you can grow food on. Energy independence. Second, you need to exit their system where possible. Do not leave your wealth in a target date fund that blindly feeds the BlackRock machine. Take control of your retirement accounts. Look for self-directed IRAs. Invest in local businesses. Invest in commodities. Third, reject the subscription mindset. Fight to own things. Repair your old car instead of leasing a new one. Pay off your debt. Debt is the chain that binds you to their system. The less debt you have, the less power they have over you. BlackRock's $10 trillion bet is a wager that you will remain passive. It is a wager that you will not educate yourself. It is a wager that you will surrender. But bets can be lost. Giants can fall. The Soviet Union looked invincible in 1985. The British East India Company ruled the world until it didn't. Centralization always works until it fails catastrophically. Aladdin is a machine. It knows the past, but it cannot predict the human spirit. It cannot predict the moment when a population decides they have had enough. The state is failing. That is true, but the future does not have to belong to BlackRock. The future is up for grabs. The assets are there. The land is there. The technology is there. The question is, who will hold the keys? Will it be the algorithm in Washington State, or will it be you? The bet is on the table. The wheel is spinning. Larry Fink has placed his chips. Now, it is time for you to place yours. Don't bet on the dying empire. Bet on yourself. Bet on sovereignty. And never, ever let them turn you into a serf in your own country. You now understand who really owns the world. BlackRock has placed a $10 trillion bet against your freedom. The question is, are you going to take the other side of that trade? If this analysis opened your eyes, like this video, it signals to the algorithm that we are not afraid to speak the truth. I want to hear from you in the comments. Do you think BlackRock should be broken up by the government, or is it already too powerful to stop? If you want to survive the great transfer they are planning, you need to be prepared. Subscribe to Empire Cycles and turn on notifications. The warnings will continue. To understand how they are using technology to lock you into this new feudal system, watch this video on techno-feudalism next. This is Empire Cycles. We don't predict the future, we prepare for it. I'll see you there.